Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves as contestants in the most famous live show in the near future. It's a no-holds-barred fight where you'll use technology to take the appearance and abilities of historical characters from the action movies of the late 20th century and early 21st century. In Badass Force, you'll be trying to be the first to achieve 16 victory points by eliminating the opposing characters. But a player is never eliminated from the game. It's for 3 to 7 players, takes 25 to 45 minutes to play, and is for ages 18 and up, and published by Funky Sheep. It's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so any art you see here is subject to change, and any components you see here are a prototype, and you'll want to check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video to see all the final art and components. Now the game comes with all these different characters. Now you'll only be using 7 of these in any one game, so you can mix and match, and there's even some specific starting recommended sets to use, and certain sets to also use with different player counts. For example, here's one of the sets that's recommended for the basic configuration for your first game. Now, how this works is that each player is actually going to get one of each of these 7 cards, so everybody has one of all of them. So each player will get one of these cards, and they'll shuffle them up. And then once shuffled, every player randomly takes one of those cards and places it underneath their player aid in a reserve. This means they don't have that card at the beginning of the game. This is important because this is mainly a bluffing game and people won't know which character you may or may not have. Each player is also going to get a random weapon at the beginning of the game that they'll be using to try to eliminate other characters, which is the name of the game in this. Because the object of the game is to get 16 or more points and you'll be the one winning the game. So here we have a 4-player game set up. Each player has selected one of their characters from their hand and placed it face down. They have their weapon, so we have 4 players here with the score chart here in the middle. Now turns are very simple. You're going to go clockwise, and each player's turn, the first thing they're going to do is gain a bullet. It allows them to move up 1 on a weapon. If this weapon is ever full, they're actually able to use that weapon. We'll go over that later. Then you're going to choose one of the following actions on your player aid. Now you place the card face down. This is a character here. And one of the main things you're trying to do is eliminate other players' characters, giving you points. So one of the things you could do is announce the name of a badass with the character that you are saying that is here. Now this is a bluffing game, so you could be lying. So let's just say I said that I have Chuck here, and basically we're going to use Chuck's power. Now just off to the side here, I'm showing you what Chuck's power is. It causes all other opponents to reveal their characters, and if there is no other Chuck there, any identical ones are eliminated and killed. Then all the players have a chance to call my bluff. They can try to call it or not. Let's assume that they did not call it. So in this case, all the other players would reveal their badass characters. And so we see Sylvester, and Linda. There was no Chuck, and there are some identical characters here. So these 2 would get eliminated. Now they're not eliminated from the game. Basically they just take their badass and they put it in their graveyard, which is basically a face-up place in front of them. And any player can look through any other player's graveyard at any time because you can help deduce what they may or may not have. Now I would have scored points. You get 2 points for killing one and 1 additional point for killing another one. So basically we could move them up just like that. Now, if someone actually eliminated my badass, if I was in the lead, that player would get an additional point. So whoever's in the lead is going to get targeted a little bit more in this game. And then the players that had their badasses eliminated would select a new card to place face down. It would go to the next player's turn clockwise. However, let me just show you the different other actions you can take. Remember, you're always gaining 1 bullet at the beginning of your turn. You can always gain more. So you can roll dice to try to gain more bullets. For each green bullet, you move up 1 on the bullet track. For each yellow bullet that's rolled, you're going to get to move up 1, but so is everybody else. For each red, you don't gain a bullet, but everybody else does. And if you just happen to roll the 2 red bullets, your weapon jams and it goes all the way back down to 0. Now, let's just assume we have some bullets and this is full. Let's assume it's the beginning of our turn, and we've gotten up to here. You can use this. So what this does is it allows you to use this special ability, and this says short range to use only on your neighbors. That means players next to you. So yeah, one of the things you could do is use your loaded weapon. And when you use the weapon, you simply eliminate that player's character, but then this goes away into a discard pile, and you get to pick a new weapon from one of the 3 face-up in the armory. This is a deck that's set up at the beginning of the game. Let's say you want the bazooka. You take this, and a new one would come out so that other people can get these when it's time for them to take something. And these weapons do all sorts of different things. The bazooka, it takes a long time to get it loaded, but once it is, it's really powerful. You kill an opponent's badass and their 2 neighbors. The machine gun. Now, if you get here, all the way up to the green, you can target 1 more badass. So you could basically use it to kill 2. Shotgun, at short range, you can only use it with neighbors, but again, if you go all the way to blast, you target 1 more badass. With the sniper rifle, you get to guess that target's identity, and if you're right, you get to keep the weapon and 4 bullets. With the grenade, you have a couple things here. The normal one, you can kill any opponent and their 2 neighbors. That's what this thing does. But if you get all the way to danger, once the weapon gets all the way to here, you discard it and lose your badass. So you don't want to get too high on the weapons there. And this will cause other players to try to roll dice to increase your bullets in order to get it up like that and have it blow up on yourself. The flamethrower. So if you get, this allows you to throw the dice, and for each of the bullets, the yellow bullets, you kill a badass next to your target, which is cool. But if you get all the way to danger, you discard it and lose your badass. Pretty much, it blows up on yourself. So again, on your turn, you're gaining a bullet and taking one of the actions. One of the things you can do is change your badass. You pick this up, you look at your cards in your hand, and you put another one down, face down. Now you can put the same one down just to bluff other people. Now again, you're only taking one of these, but another thing you can do is change your weapon. Let's say you don't want the bazooka anymore. You could actually take this, remove it, and get another one from the armory and start it over at the beginning amount. So those are all the actions you can do. Let's talk a little bit more about using the name of your own badass. So before, we said we were Chuck and nobody decided to call our bluff. Let's assume somebody did. So someone called me up, I would have to flip this over, and if I was telling the truth and it was Chuck, that player who wrongly accused would have to randomly take a card from their hand and place it face up in their graveyard, meaning it's eliminated. Plus, you get to use this power in addition to that, and you get to change out this character for free by placing it face down, and again, it could be the same card or not. However, if when they called my bluff, I flipped it up and it was not who I said it was Chuck, in this case it's Bruce, this would get eliminated to my graveyard, and the player that called my bluff would get points accordingly. Now, once a player has had all their cards eliminated, I mean, you have 6 here and the 7th one was under here from the beginning, what happens is you take the card that was in the reserve and all of these cards back, you'll randomly, just like in setup, you'll place 1 in the reserve under here. Now you have a full hand of 6 cards, but this actually gets set to what's called revenge mode. Now, at the beginning of your turn, instead of gaining 1 bullet, you get 2. And in the game, if at least 1 player is in revenge mode, if you're not in revenge mode, meaning you're in normal, you get a point at the beginning of your turn, so that's another way to get points. But the other cool thing about being in revenge mode is when you use the ability for a badass, you actually get to use the revenge mode version, which is a more powerful. For example, for Sylvester, instead of gaining 2 bullets, you'd get another 2. Now let's look at some of the other abilities here. Steven, you can use an opponent's loaded weapon by giving them 3 bullets that you have onto their next one. So essentially you get to use somebody else's weapon. You can't use it on themselves. That weapon gets discarded, a new one comes out, and you have to give them 3 bullets that you had to start that player's new weapon. And you can repeat it if possible in revenge mode. With John Claude, you can spend 2 bullets to guess an opponent's badass identity, and if right, it's killed. And in revenge mode, as long as you're right, you can repeat this without paying, which is really cool. Linda allows you to steal 2 bullets from an opponent, and revenge mode, another 2 from a different opponent. Uma allows you to gain a bullet, plus another bullet for each badass in your graveyard, and the revenge mode gives you another +1 for each badass in your graveyard. With Arnold, if a weapon's used against him, you can spend 2 bullets to kill the attacker, and if you're in revenge mode, Arnold is not killed. With Bruce, if you have 3 bullets more than the opponent, you spend 2 of those to kill their badass, and in revenge mode, you can repeat it if possible. With Michelle, you can choose 2 actions that are not announcing the name of a badass, and in revenge mode, if you change your weapon, you gain 2 bullets. With Dolph, if you have at least 3 bullets, you can swap all of them with those of an opponent. So basically you want to use this with somebody who has a lot more bullets than you to swap them. And in the revenge mode, you can use your weapon if possible. And with Sigourney, you can spend 3 bullets to kill the badass of an opponent ahead of you on the score track, and you can repeat the power if possible in revenge mode. And so you keep playing this in clockwise motion until one or more players have 16 or more points. If there's just one player, that player wins. If it's tied, whoever has most bullets on their weapon wins. And if it's still tied, well, you gotta play it again. Well, there you have Badass Force, and as I've shown in the overview, it's a thematic game with strong interaction, which uses bluffing, guessing, hand management, and tactics. Now, if you'd like to see all the final art, components, and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video, and that will take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure the fine folks at Funky Sheep would love your support.